Fronleichnam ist ein Fest der Dankbarkeit für die leibliche Gegenwart Jesu in Brot und Wein und symbolisiert die Gemeinschaft der Gläubigen mit ihm im Abendmahl. Es erinnert auch an das letzte Abendmahl von Jesus und die Einsetzung der Eucharistie.
So, good morning mga chiki dudes. So, nato karon sa city. Attend tayo ng mass. Today is a holiday here in Deutschland. And a big event sa mga Catholic. Sigar na? Yes, ay nagirok sigar. Soldes.
Ekelhaft, ja. Das ist ja sensationell. Der raucht da weiter.
Ruby.
Current practice in Germany, Austria and Switzerland, altar boys with crosses and flags lead the procession, followed by banner bearers of the clubs, the music band and the church choir. The sacramental confraternity precedes the Blessed Sacrament, which is carried by concelebrants and shielded by the canopy and Swiss guards. In German-speaking countries, until well into the 20th century, the Corpus Christi celebration was customary in the form that after a solemn high mass in the parish church, the procession went through the village to 4 altars and then back to the parish church for the final blessing. According to Guido Fuchs, the procession went around a certain district following the example of the field procession, but did not usually reach the ideal cited by Fuchs of going around the entire parish area. This practice has declined in recent years. 59. Today, in many places, the Mass is usually celebrated at the beginning in a public square, followed by the Eucharistic procession with stations according to local custom. In some places, a new element of the festival design has been introduced, a joint Mass of the parishes of a municipality in the open air on a square in the city centre, which can be combined with a star procession. The parishes involved come in procession form without the Blessed Sacrament along different routes to the place of the Eucharist celebration. After the Holy Mass they each return with the Blessed Sacrament to their parishes, where the final blessing is then given. If 2 parishes are involved, the Mass can take place in one parish church. The procession then leads, possibly with blessing stations along the way, to the other church, where the final celebration takes place. Such a procession can also be led by a deacon, but not by a communion assistant. In a survey by the magazine Liturgy Concrete in 2002, in which 432 people took part, mostly from southern Germany, about half of the respondents stated that there were 4 stations in the local procession. The second most common was 1 station, and 2 or 3 stations accounted for about 12% each. 6. The order of the procession is generally subject to local traditions and agreements. The procession is led by a processional cross, usually flanked by 2 flags or candlesticks. These and the cross are carried by altar boys. They are followed by the children, followed by the clubs in closed groups in the usual local order, often with the club flag in traditional costume or uniform, and these are both church or church-affiliated groups such as the Kolping family, the Rifle Club and youth groups, as well as other clubs such as the Volunteer Fire Brigade. In many places the children of the year receiving their communion go along as a group, wearing their festive clothing once again. If necessary, a group of musicians follow, possibly also the church choir. Local religious orders and clergy, where present, line up in front of the Blessed Sacrament. They are followed by the altar boys, and last of all the thurifiers with the censer directly in front of the Blessed Sacrament. According to local custom, the canopy is carried by riflemen or firefighters in uniform, members of the church council, parish council or clubs, or other community members. If non-uniformed people carry the canopy, the bearers are usually dressed festively. In some places it is customary for the riflemen to flank the group with the Blessed Sacrament. Behind the canopy, where it is customary, there may be public dignitaries such as mayors and local councillors, and possibly representatives of the university and student associations. Church flags and figures can be carried at several points in the procession. In Bamberg, in the tradition of the medieval guilds, the gardeners still take part in the procession with a sculpture of their patron saint, St. Mary Magdalene. 33 women and men usually walked in separate groups. But in many places this order has been dissolved in favor of family-based grouping. In some places it has become customary to carry the Gospel book as a sign of the presence of God in His Word, in some cases even under the heavens with the Blessed Sacrament. The Gospel book can be carried by an altar boy, a deacon or, in the case of ecumenical participation, by the Protestant pastor. In the spirit of ecumenism, one of the blessing stations can also be dedicated to prayer for unity. In a large number of communities, the procession is followed by a communal lunch, a drink or some kind of community festival. The changes following the Second Vatican Council were not without controversy in the parishes. Some changes also occurred when parishes were merged. Some pastoral units allow sub-parishes to have their own procession, in others a joint Corpus Christi celebration is held. Factors for changes in the course of the procession are also a decline in the proportion of Catholics with strong ties to the Church, the dissolution of popular church structures in which church and society were more or less congruent, as well as individualization, flexibility, secularization in a pluralistic society and changed leisure behavior, with the holiday and the following bridge day being used for an extended weekend vacation. 6. In addition, there are problems due to the expansion of roads and higher traffic volumes, which no longer allow the closure of a procession. Therefore, the route is often shortened, the number of blessing altars reduced accordingly, or even a procession is omitted entirely for this reason and not because of changed theological views. Occasionally, people want to make the Corpus Christi celebration more family-friendly and therefore make changes. In some places there are no longer any bearers for the canopy, or the canopy above the Blessed Sacrament is omitted because of too triumphant gestures. Especially many parishes in southern German and Austrian dioceses hold on to the traditional form, quote, old splendor including the royal insignia. Guido Fuchs. The Corpus Christi custom can be seen as a mixture of religion, tradition and tourist attraction, which in some places attracts thousands of onlookers. The theological shift in emphasis from the procession to the Holy Mass is not being followed. Even in the media, reports on the Corpus Christi festival only show the procession. Liturgical scholars such as Andreas Heinz and Guido Fuchs point out that the festivities are in danger of slipping into folklore if the traditional design is merely preserved but is subject to progressive erosion. The question is raised as to whether bringing the Eucharist out into a public that is increasingly religiously indifferent is appropriate to the actually intimate nature of the sacrament, according to Guido Fuchs. The processional route. Little altar in a window on the processional route. 1961. The tradition of decorating the processional route expresses a joy in the liturgy, the feeling of a festive procession as a joyful occasion. In 1679, the Catholic Church even prescribed the decoration of the processional route in the Rituale Romanum. All streets and squares through which the venerable sacrament is carried should be decorated and adorned with trees, branches, grass, carpets and other forms of decoration. The scattering and laying out of flowers has biblical models and is particularly reminiscent of Jesus' entry into Jerusalem, when people spread cloves and branches in front of him. A carpet of flowers creates a holy path and prevents the feet of the person carrying the monstrance from touching the ground. The sacred is separated from the profane. The path leads through the everyday world, but does not necessarily touch it. The floral decorations and the planting of birch trees or beech branches along the procession route are also part of the special early summer experience of the Corpus Christi festival. This decoration, which used to be very elaborate, is well documented in photo archives. This was done by the residents or by groups in the community who had taken it upon themselves to decorate individual streets or one of the blessing altars together. In many places, in addition to the processional flags along the way, pictures, ornaments and writings made from many individual flower parts are traditionally laid as a flower carpet in front of station altars and on the processional route. In Germany, the town of Hüfingen near Donaueschingen, and the community of Sipplingen on Lake Constance are particularly well known for their flower carpets on Corpus Christi, 80, in front of the houses or in the windows. Residents placed altars with images of saints or other family religious symbols, flowers and candles. Other common ways of decorating the processional route were triumphal arches, bouquets of flowers, reeds or mown grass as a continuous carpet. 81. It was common to fly flags on houses, even on church towers. Flags that were visible from afar were hung from openings in the spire. Changes to the procession routes have made the previously lavish decoration of the streets more difficult and are increasingly being abandoned. Today, where it is still common, it is often limited to putting up processional flags at the side of the road, and only on certain sections of the procession route, and hoisting flags in front of the church and on some of the houses along the way. More elaborate forms of decoration are only used in places where Corpus Christi is still seen as a major religious holiday or where a corresponding secular custom, folk festival or similar, follows. With magnificent processions, people want to honor Christ as the King given from heaven. It can rightly be said that the Christian people, under the impulse of a divine inspiration, want to bring the Savior, who came into this world and whom the godless did not want to recognize, out of the silence and obscurity of the sanctuaries, in order to accompany him like a conqueror through the streets of the cities and to restore him to his royal rights.
Alex, Foto makan. Yummy. So, ayos na Alex.
Now mga chikidudes, so thank you for watching. So please don't forget to share, like, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Kirai and Kido. So sa hindi pa na-subscribe dyan, please hit the notification bell down below para ma-update kayo sa mga walang pantang vlogs na